Picture this. You've just won an Academy Award. Not a nomination, not a nice certificate. The actual gold statuette. It's heavy, it's symbolic, and it's the kind of object you assume you'll be guarding with your life for the rest of the week. Now imagine you're at New York's JFK airport, heading across the Atlantic to Frankfurt, and someone in security looks at that Oscar and basically says, "Nope. That can't come with you."
I'm sorry, what? An Oscar is suddenly a carry-on threat. Like, are we talking about the pointy parts? The base? The prestige?
That's exactly what made this story blow up. This happened to Pavel Talankin, who recently won the Oscar for Best Documentary as a co-director of the film Mr. Nobody Against Putin. He's traveling, trophy in hand, expecting a normal flight, until a TSA agent stops him and tells him the statue could be used as a weapon.
I mean, I get that security has to imagine worst-case scenarios, but it's still wild. If you've won an Oscar, you'd think the biggest risk is dropping it on your foot, not having it confiscated like a suspicious object.
Right. And here's where the tension really kicks in. Talankin didn't have luggage to check. So the solution, according to his co-director, David Borenstein, was that the Oscar got placed into a box and sent down to the bottom of the plane.
Which is already a sentence that makes me nervous. The Oscar was put in a box and sent to the bottom of the plane. That sounds like the opening scene of a heist movie.
And then the punchline nobody wants, it doesn't show up in Frankfurt.
So you land, you go to baggage, except it's not baggage. It's an Oscar. And it's just, gone.
Gone. And because this is 2026 and nothing stays private for long, Borenstein posted about it on Instagram, explaining what happened at TSA, how they had no option to check it properly, how it was routed under the plane, and how it never arrived.
And you know that kind of post catches fire instantly. People don't just love celebrity stories. They love stories where a priceless object disappears in plain sight. It's relatable and absurd at the same time.
Exactly. It turned into an international mini-drama. The kind where everyone is asking the same question, how do you lose an Oscar?
Also, what do you even do in that moment? File a missing luggage claim? Describe it to the agent like, it's gold, it's about 13 inches tall, and it represents my life's work?
And while all of that was unfolding online, Lufthansa eventually confirmed they had located the statue. 2 days later, they put out a statement saying the Oscar had been found and was safe in their care in Frankfurt.
Okay, thank goodness. So it wasn't stolen, it wasn't melted down, it didn't end up in someone's living room as a very confusing souvenir.
Not this time. Lufthansa said they were in direct contact with Talankin to return it to him personally as quickly as possible. They also apologized and said they're reviewing what went wrong internally.
That internal review line is doing a lot of work. Because you can't just lose the most recognizable trophy in entertainment and be like, oops.
No. And what makes this story even more interesting is who Talankin is and what this film represents. Mr. Nobody Against Putin is the documentary that won Best Documentary back in March. Talankin and Borenstein delivered one of the more emotionally charged acceptance moments of the night.
This isn't just a shiny award story. This is tied to a film that's about serious political reality, and about risk.
Exactly. Talankin is the Mr. Nobody referenced in the title. He was a teacher and activities director in a small town in Russia. The film's core is built around footage he secretly recorded, students and school routines that included lessons, chants, and songs supporting Putin's war in Ukraine.
That's heavy. And recording that kind of material inside Russia, especially in a school setting, isn't just journalism. It's dangerous.
And it didn't stop at recording. The reporting around the film says Talankin smuggled hard drives out of the country to collaborate with Borenstein, who is based in Copenhagen. So when we talk about how hard it is to make a documentary, this is a literal example of stakes.
Which makes the missing Oscar episode feel symbolic in a weird way. Like, after everything that went into making the film, risk, secrecy, getting footage out, then the award itself almost gets lost in airport logistics.
Totally. And at the Oscars, Talankin spoke in Russian through a translator, with a message that was basically a plea for an end to war. He said, "In the name of our future, in the name of all of our children, stop all of these wars now."
So this isn't an award that represents a typical red carpet moment. It represents a story about propaganda, children, and conflict, and a person who put himself in a difficult position to document it.
Which is why people reacted so strongly when the statuette went missing. It's not just a celebrity lost something expensive. It's a symbol of a dangerous, painstaking story got tossed into the cargo hold because someone thought it might be a weapon.
Let's talk about that for a second. The TSA angle. We should say, TSA didn't immediately respond to requests for comment, at least according to the coverage. But it raises questions.
Like, what's the policy for unusual items that are valuable but not technically prohibited? And if they're going to say no to the cabin, what's the safe handling process? Because, put it in a box is not a process. That's a gamble.
And a gamble with a globally recognized object. If that were a violin from the 1700s, you'd never tell the musician, just toss it underneath. But for some reason, a trophy can get treated like a random item.
Exactly. And by the way, there's also the airline side of this. Lufthansa did the right thing by confirming it was located, communicating publicly, and setting up a personal return. But the fact it took 2 days tells you it wasn't just sitting there with a neat label on it.
I keep imagining it on a cart in a back room, unclaimed items. And then someone looks down and goes, "Wait, is that an Oscar?"
That's the part that makes the internet love this story. It's like the universe staged a moment of chaos just to remind everyone, even the most celebrated objects are still subject to human error, conveyor belts, and paperwork.
So what's the takeaway here? Besides, never let your award out of your sight, which is kind of hard when security tells you it can't come with you.
A few takeaways. 1. Travel policies aren't always designed for one-of-a-kind, sentimental items. 2. If you're carrying anything irreplaceable, it's worth planning for contingencies, like having a bag you can check properly, or asking for special handling rather than accepting a last-minute improvisation.
And 3. For the rest of us who will never win an Oscar, it's a reminder that airports can turn any trip into a saga in about 30 seconds.
In the end, this one lands on a happier note. The Oscar that disappeared after the JFK to Frankfurt flight was found, secured, and set to be returned to Pavel Talankin. The panic was real, the headlines were loud, and for a couple of days, the world had a genuinely strange question on its mind: where is the Oscar?
And thankfully, the answer wasn't gone forever. It was located, sitting safely in Frankfurt, waiting to go back to the person who earned it.
If you're listening and you've had your own nightmare travel story, lost luggage, missing gear, a priceless item that somehow took a detour, just know you're not alone. Even an Academy Award can get caught up in the system.
But maybe don't test whether your trophy can be classified as a weapon. Let's not start that trend.
That's it for today. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back with another story where reality somehow outdoes fiction.